spawning down here in the bottom position. He is Hurricane. And his opponent up here in the top, give it up for Innovation. A bit of an extra flare right there, but we do see that first probe going to be coming across the map. More than likely, this isn't going to be a proxy. I think in these longer series, you do kind of want to save that proxy locations for a little bit later on. It's never really a good sign to kind of show your hand early, and that's one of the things as a pro player you kind of recognize that it's more than just winning. It's winning so decisively that your opponent can't even try as the series goes on. But right now we do see Innovation is going to be skipping the Reaper, just going for that first scout with the SCV. And this is something, again, that Terran players have been kind of experimenting with. It's kind of joined the new meta where you just get that first Marine, you use the gas to build up that reactor, and what that allows you to do is that allows you to have 3 Marines out for the first Adept that comes across the map, and it allows you to continuously be producing and have enough for either Stargate coming across. You're a little bit safer if Blink is on the way, and yeah, it's just a really good kind of way to not really lose too much information while still being pretty safe. And now we do see the Adept going to be coming out and behind that Stargate. And yeah, that's where the power really starts to come in. Let's see if Innovation can have his units in position. And actually, this is going to be a 2-1-1. Beautiful play here. Innovation actually the producer of the 2-1-1 strategy, even though other players have kind of perfected it. And let's see. Okay, never mind. It is just going to be a straight up 3 racks. Going to get the double Reapers as well. That's kind of interesting, especially on this map where Hurricane has already blocked off the choke point for those Reapers to get into the main base, which does mean that they're not going to be able to really get too much work done. Even information is going to be a little bit hard to kind of wrangle out of this. But yeah, there we go. We do see the Reapers going to be coming across. The Marines a little bit far forward as well. They might not be too long for this world, as we see. The Adept does go down, and the Stalker now on the chase. So this is actually getting a little bit better here. He even gets an information on that Oracle. And once he sees that popping out, that is a really big tell that he needs to have those Marines in position. He already has the engineering base, so he's not going to be in too much trouble. But still, just really good for him to know all of this stuff as a Hurricane. Going to be going up to a second Oracle, potentially a third as well. So you can kind of see a little bit of a change here in Hurricane's game plan as he does throw down the Twilight Council and the additional gateways once he sees that it was that 3 racks. Because one of the things about 3 racks is it can be pretty powerful once stim completes and once you can kind of start to push out. But until that stim completes, you're very vulnerable. And unfortunately for Hurricane, a very unfortunate pick off here. That Oracle will go down. But I think back at home, he will have that those additional gateways coming on up. Blink should finish. I don't think Innovation is going to be too aggressive here just yet. Because remember, even if he does have stim right now, he doesn't have any medevacs. He's only just now starting his factory. So any stim is going to be very detrimental to his own health. I do like the look of Hurricane's army right now. He has plenty of stalkers to try and get some pickoffs before the real engagement starts, but the shield batteries not really super ready just yet. The battery has been popped, so now Innovation will have to back off until that ends, because you just cannot fight that along with Guardian Shield. And this is all just to buy time for Hurricane to get up that robo facility, for his upgrades to finish, the pylons to finish, and yeah, he's doing a good job of holding on. But now the second stim comes on forward. He's out of range of the shield battery on a lot of his units here. They will start to blink off. Innovation starting to get whittled away quite a bit. The Zealot doing a really good job of tanking for the Stalkers in the back. And this actually will be forced to the top of the ramp here, but Hurricane does feel confident enough to just jump up there, kill off the remaining Marauders, and he has held beautifully. So now, what's next for Innovation? He's gonna have to play it a little bit more defensive as he gets this third base up. That was pretty much not necessarily an all-any kind of deal, but it was very committed, and it slowed him down quite a bit. As you can see, he's only on 51 workers to the 65 of Hurricane. And obviously we can talk about mules all day, but there's still only 2 bases. His third's still building. So basically what that means is, yeah, he's going to have to stay back. He's really going to give a lot of time for Hurricane to get up to this robo facility, that gateway explosion, and charge, which is really the point where you don't want to see as a Terran player, just because charge can be very good versus pure bio. Alright, looks like the armory is on the way, so those +2 upgrades will be a little bit late, but again, Hurricane has only just now getting his +1, so there still will be that upgrade advantage. As we see the War Prism going to be popping in for a little bit of a visit. The Oracle as well, kind of just sticking around for revelations. And here we go, the attack in the front's coming in, but that is a very defensible position. That's why the backstab is so important right now. For Hurricane. We do see something on the right side over there. I think that might be a little bit of a run by as well. But the Zealots going to start wailing away on this mineral line as Innovation making the decision to not come back home. He's going to deny the 4th base, even though he's lost 11 workers so far. He's just going to go straight for the main as well, so this is a very risky move, especially since we do have Colossus out. The Stalker's going to blink on top of that as well, so unfortunately no dice for Innovation at the moment, and even now, an additional Warpin going to be just absolutely dreadful for him to deal with. Getting chewed out for a lot of units, but he will get the pick off on that Cybernetics Core. At the very least, that's a moral victory. But now Innovation on a little bit of a, I don't want to say timer, but he's definitely got some work to do if he wants to get back into this one. Even not really paying attention to that Widow Mine will mean that he loses it. And it looks like he is just going to come back home, which just gives more room for Hurricane to be a nuisance in his main base. Yeah. This isn't even a win behind Dark Shrine. This is a win ahead, go ahead. as we're just going to see everything is going down here. Everything has been going wrong for Innovation. He does have a relatively healthy army. It's actually ahead of Hurricane, but he just doesn't really have a staying force with it. He doesn't have siege tanks. He doesn't have ghosts. All he has are these widow mines, and that's not really the answer to the very heavy robo facility that Hurricane is going for right now. Like, we don't even see a Templar Archives anywhere in the production. Yeah, none at all. So 7 more workers going on down. The Dark Templars are going to wail away on that third base before getting on out of there, being very conservative so he doesn't just lose them unnecessarily. Innovation also kind of just holding down the fort near the front. He's got 2 double prong attacks going to be coming on in. He might get this Colossus here that's very exposed. So that's a very good start to this engagement, but he has to be careful as to where he decides to move in. The natural is completely under threat here, but that does mean that he is going to get sandwiched, although those Widow Mines making it a very painful trade for Hurricane. So far, Innovation is now dishing back the damage that he has taken, but he's going to have to do a little bit more with this force. Getting the third base is almost absolutely essential for making this work, but there's just not really anything here at the front anymore for Hurricane. As his supply dips to 77, that's going to be it. Innovation taking game number 1. So a really strong start for Innovation. We saw that he took quite a bit of damage, but in the end was able to kind of just get that killing blow. And that's one of the things, like, as a pro player, even if you hammer your opponent for long amounts of time, it doesn't matter if you can't follow it up with a strong defense. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of people kind of don't understand when they go upset on the Reddits and the battle nets, etc., etc. But let us not digress on that, as we have spawning down here in the bottom location of Death Aura. He is Hurricane. And his opponent up here hanging out in the top position. Give it up for Innovation. Oh shoot, I've been trying to make my intros line up with when Into does them, but didn't really work too well. Now, we do see this first probe once again just going to be kind of just coming across the map. Not really too much of a threat based on the pathing. It's just there to be a nuisance. And I think this is the thing that takes Terran players off the most, is having to deal with this guy. Does mean that he is going to have to pull off an SCV and, you know, just... yeah. But this time, Innovation is going to be playing a little bit safer with the scouting game. He's got the Reaper up and out. So with that, obviously, it is going to delay the factory for just a couple of additional seconds. But that's not really too important to him. What's important to him on this map especially is getting that information. He might even send the Reaper out to look for those proxy locations, because there are a couple of locations that are really difficult to deal with. If you throw down a Stargate there, like there in the bottom where the Reaper is actually just going to scat around, exactly like that. Now, once again, we do see, going back to an old favorite, the 3 racks, which, again, we kind of talked about this. It can be good if your opponent is going for Stargate, because of the fact that it does mean you will have enough of a defense out for the first couple of oracles, for the potential void rays. But at the same time, it can be pretty weak to a Twilight Council opening, which is actually what we're seeing from Hurricane right now. We'll have to see how many additional gateways he drops down. 3? If he drops down 2 additional gateways, it's trouble. If he drops down 3, it's triple trouble. Because what that means is that he is going to be committing so much to it that it'll be very difficult for Innovation to kind of keep up with the production. Although he is going for a very fast +1. I think he's kind of just adjusting his playstyle a little bit to the new Protoss meta. As getting that +1 is going to mean his units have quite a bit of bite. But now the Reaper does get in and he sees pretty much everything. So he should be feeling a little bit safer than if he wouldn't have seen that. That is an unfortunate adept. Alright, so it looks like these stalkers are just playing it very defensive until that observer starts to make its way across. He still has a small window here, but as Stim starts to finish up, that's kind of the end of his ability to be aggressive with this. Because basically, Stim will mean that he's able to chase you down. And that's really what you don't want with this. Now, we do see Innovation has pulled out of the bunker. Looks like he's kind of gearing up here to move out, but the Observer is going to get a very good scout on this, and that is going to be dreadful for him if he does decide to move. We do have that third base already down and mining as well. Do we see one from Innovation? So far, the answer is no. I think that's another kind of weakness of the 3 racks, is that you're producing so heavily just off 2 bases that you actually have a big problem getting up to that third base. So you start to fall behind economically, meaning that this attack has to get some good damage in. Which already, I think Hurricane is doing a very good job of keeping it back and just really making it so much less impactful. All things considered, but yeah, Innovation really just stuck at the top of that ramp, unable to move down. Stalker's in the back going to be able to pick off quite a few reinforcements. 2 Marauders there, but he doesn't really have anything at home. He might have to recall, and there you have it. He loses his ability out of that Robo facility. The Immortal as well going to take quite a bit of fire. Good War Prism Micro. Going to keep that alive, but he's taking so much damage in his natural. I think this is a really good attack for Innovation. Even if it doesn't outright kill him, even taking down the War Prism, this is still a really nice lead, and the reinforcements are going to be just heading on home. He's very happy right now. I think one of Hurricane's main problems as well is just the fact that he doesn't really have any next tier of tech. He does have the Robo facility, but I don't think he has the Bay to go down with it. He's really relying heavily on the Warp Gate pressure. And as we all know, Warp Gate really loses its potency as that bio tech starts to just kind of scale up. 3 bases is where it's at the most scariest, because that's when destruction really ramps up at a exponential level. Although, if I can say one thing about Innovation, he is delaying his upgrades slightly by not getting that armory in a reasonable time. So he is kind of stuck on the 1-1. But we'll see. We'll hold that thought because we do have this drop coming on in. The Zealots trying to get their surface area, but not able to do so. Focusing down the Stalkers, although the medevac is dead. So now it's pretty much... these units are pretty much forfeit. Let's see what they get done. Not too much, as a small run by went into Innovation's own base and killed off 5 additional workers. Oh no, Innovation, you will have to back out of here. You just don't have enough. So now, Innovation is caught between kind of a rock and a hard place, as it looks like Hurricane just wants to try and push his advantage. Maybe close out the game if he can, but I don't see it happening off the back of this push. Again, he doesn't really have any staying power with this army. So he's just going to kind of rotate around, try and get between the army and the natural, since the Widow Mines are not in position there. Were not in position there. Past tense now. But a big warp in, actually going to pull away quite a bit. As it's going to be raking in on the mineral line here. Widow Mines getting some good connections, which will help out quite a bit. But the Warp Prism... did the Warp Prism actually get taken down? I don't know. We'll have to check after the fight. As finally getting cleaned up in the run-bys there. Take a look at the units lost. Yes, he did lose the Warp Prism. So that is really what killed him in this push. So now, Innovation, a 50 army supply lead. He's a Hurricane desperately trying to go for Storm, but he's gonna have to morph Archons because this army is not gonna give him the time to finish that. Is that a Reaper just kind of dancing around there? Yeah, it is still alive. That is hilarious. Might be a miscollector right there. Getting the pickoffs is nice. It's just going to stop this army from getting on top of him, buy himself some time. And once again, we got that Zealot run by, just waiting for its moment here. Hurricane focusing on other locations at the moment. Scan going to go down, revealing that dropping the main base is going to be a very bad idea. It's like... I'm going to leave that analogy out of it because I totally forgot what the analogy was. But now... okay, so now Hurricane is in a much better spot. He has Storm. He will be going up to the Robo Bay. And he's kind of getting his upgrades pretty well. He's been relying on shields. Or not shields, but armor. And huge Widow Mine shots there. Going to make it not even matter, as Innovation is getting pushed back still, even though he was able to clean up all of those Zealots to force fields, trapping a huge majority of his army. The drop in the main base not going to be going in either. Ghost production has started, and Hurricane is actually out of storms, so he's now kind of struggling just a little bit to clean this up. Big Storm's going to absolutely steamroll this army as the Widow Mines are cleaned up in the backfield, forcing the retreat. Wow, action all over the place. These two are certainly delivering on their promise of a good series. Innovation not going to let up the pressure here. I think this is kind of the most important thing. You've got to make sure that you're at least trading effectively and kind of preventing your opponent from getting any additional scale up. And the way to do that is with these double prong harassments, because at this point Hurricane really just doesn't have enough units to effectively protect both sides. You can see he's forcing the defensive warp-ins. Oh no, what's going on here? Oh, did I crash? Oh, no. I think, StarCraft 2 just crashed, guys. I don't know if anyone can hear me. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Alright, 1 second, guys. There we go. Alright, so that was pretty interesting. I was having some trouble getting the replays to actually go into my folder earlier. Like, basically what happened was they, oh, by the way, this is from replay. Like, into the Inu actually made this event very last minute yesterday, and like we were not available to cast it, so that's why we're going through the replays now. But yeah, I was having some errors with it, but it looks like the stream is still okay. So let's hop back into it. Okay, it looks like BattleNet server isn't responding. All right, apologize for this, guys. Let's get it back rolling. I am back into game right now. So let me just get it to where it's supposed to be. Thank you for your patience, everyone. I really appreciate it. Need to get right around there. So that's just going to be seeking for a second. But I hope everyone is having a good day. We do have a Matcherino set up for y'all. If you want to check out the Matcherino page, AX 288 will add a free 50 cents to the prize pool. So that is pretty exciting. Yeah, see what is going on. Just waiting for the replay to get back to where it was. You know, this is one of the things that I hate about the replay system from SE2 is that you can't just jump into one location. You have to like wait 3 hours for it to parse through everything that's happened. But we should be right back where we started. All right. And so innovation basically got cleaned up right there. He was forced back on the double prong. We did see a small warp in head to his base, but that got cleaned up as well. And now Hurricane is just going to be adding in those additional laser giraffes to help supplement his army. And so in response, innovation is going to have to drop down the Vikings, maybe even get a second starport here, just to make sure that he's good and ready. Supplies can be a little bit deceiving. for this all. Innovation is almost completely maxed out, but Hurricane still has quite a large army to help deal with things. Unfortunately, he might get caught out of position here, so the Colossus will go down. That is a huge pickoff before this fight really begins, and now he can kind of just force his way through, as I don't think those other two Colossus are out just yet. Good Storm gonna blanket the army, forcing the medevacs to start to run a little bit low on energy. EMP is gonna be blanketing Hurricane's army in return, however, and there's really not too much here other than those Colossus in the back. As the Archon starts to fall, the Colossus getting some really good connections with Innovation's army, fighting in that choke point. That was a bit of a mistake. And I think, like, if he would have just split his units a little bit more there, he would have been in a much better position to push in there. As we see these small little run-bys trying to find damage where they can. Just at the moment, all they're really doing is keeping the reinforcements at home to help defend. But they still will get about 4 or 5 workers. Not the biggest of deals, but it's good to kind of just slow Innovation down a little bit, power back up. Look at that, he actually misses the Widow Mine. That is hilarious. Big Storm before this fight really begins. Innovation biding his time. He's waiting for the right location, the right time to strike like a tiger in the trees. And Hurricane, I mean, he's trying to divide his forces as best he can, but he just doesn't really have the ability to hold both sides effectively. He's going to have to rely on the disruptors to get some really good connections here. The Zealots falling very quickly to the EMPs, and the Ghosts are actually starting to get whittled away on Innovation. Not paying attention right there. A huge connection. And my goodness, like, even though Hurricane is down over 50 supply, even 30 in the army supply, he is really, really doing well to defend Innovation. But here we go. Once again, Disruptors not going to be able to get their shots off. The force field will block off the ramp for as long as humanly possible, which will buy a little bit of time. Looks like a couple of the units escaping there. But now Hurricane is completely surrounded as his army out of position. GG is called once again. So Innovation with 2 very solid games. The first one, he did stumble a little bit, taking so much damage to the run-bys, but at the same time, he was able to very efficiently come back. And the second game, just so much cleaner than the first. Not really taking any damage, not really giving any opportunities for Hurricane to do what Hurricane does back and get that backstab in. And so, you know, Hurricane, he's got to get his mind back into it. Buttons. Who needs them? I do. Because we have game number 3 coming down on Jaganantha. So basically, I think this was Hurricane's map choice because he did lose the last one. But let's see how things go for our blue Protoss player down here in the bottom. Give it up for Hurricane. And his opponent up here in the top position. He's red. He plays for Kaizu. He is Innovation. So Hurricane feeling a little bit insecure right now. As you can see, he's kind of just checking a couple of the normal proxy locations. And honestly, with how the pathing is, he could be going for a little bit of a... Okay, never mind. He is just going to be passing right in front of that first SCV, as we do see the Marine is going to be the option once again. Not going to waste any time trying to get out the Reaper because of the size of the map. You're really not going to see too much. On the flip side of this, that rush distance is actually very short because of those acceleration fields in the middle. I think the way it was said, it was like the maybe third shortest rush distance with those on the way, behind like Submarine and either Lightshade or Oxide or something. I'm not 100% certain. Honestly, I am just ready for some new maps. We've already been using these ones for 2 seasons now, so after Katowice, I think it's time for a really good change. And you know what? Innovation agrees with me right now, as he is going to be changing things up from the 3 racks, going straight into the factory, which, you know, more standard. It does allow you to be a little bit more aggressive, I feel, because you can just pump out, say, siege tanks, go for a big push in that that sense. But you know, on the other side of the map, we do have a fast robo facility. So whether that's just going to be for very quick immortals or, say, a Twilight timing. Does he actually have Twilight? No, he doesn't. So this is an interesting build order so far. I don't think I've really seen the Robo Bay or Robo Facility not be paired up with that Twilight Council. Looks like Innovation has been going for a bit of a later Reaper. That's kind of interesting to me, because I do feel like after a certain period, the Reaper just loses its ability to scout. Like right now, it does get in just because Hurricane probably wasn't expecting it as much. But, you know, if it works for him, because he did get the information that he needs, and I guess it's that fact that it is unexpected, which makes it so much more powerful. But we do see that War Prism going to be coming in with the Immortal in the front. So, yeah, it looks like Hurricane just going to shoot for the stars in this one. Hurricane, though, is paying attention, so he will pull his probes. There is an observer on the field, so looks like Innovation gonna lose that without really getting too much. That is unfortunate, but he does save the medevac, which is the most important thing. Widow mines are cheap. Medevacs, not so much at this point, because that's 100 gas that you would rather be putting towards your upgrades. You would obviously want to have, say, a few extra tech buildings. And just, you know, you never want to waste gas. It's a lot more expensive than just losing minerals. As we see the Liberator going to be coming on in. Like, once again, Hurricane is paying attention, so he's not going to lose any of his workers. Just a really good defense here, but with all of these small little moves, Innovation is slowing down the income, if you can kind of take a look at that. Currently a 1,000 income lead there, because those guys are not mining until just now. You can see when they go back to work. So a little bit of a cooldown here after that initial aggression, as Hurricane is just going to get a nice scout with this observer. And now I don't think he actually saw the move out there. I think the observer was just a little bit too far away, as we do see the Liberator going to be coming in for a little bit of a backstab. Now, there's a couple of locations that you can take with this. The one near the main base, I think, is the scariest for Hurricane, because if you siege up that location, it just becomes so difficult to deal with. As you can see, the Stalkers aren't even going to be enough to help out. Now, finally, the Liberator is going to be coming in here. 4 workers killed. He should probably reposition that before the Stalkers come in to finish him off. He actually got one of the Stalkers here. And look at that. Going to dive right on top of the probe line. The Zealots, though, are going to be able to force this back. I just buy some time for the Colossus to get within range. Losing 8 workers. Pretty darn nice, actually, for Innovation. He didn't even really trade out any of his army for it. So now Innovation once again setting up for his double prong. That's been his claim to fame in this series. Just really making sure that Hurricane is never in position when he wants to be. 4 additional probes going down. The reinforcements gonna have to be coming on in. And now he's waiting to dive into the 3rd base, but there are enough Colossus to where he can't really get an efficient trade. So you can see he's kind of just rotating around, looking for that angle of attack. I don't think Hurricane's really going to let him have it, though. So now Hurricane has his +2 upgrades, +2 attack about to finish up, and his +2 armor is started. So he's going to start to kind of stay relatively even on the upgrade front, as he's also going to have Storm about to complete here, while Innovation only just now adding on the additional ghosts. So really, this is kind of the point where Innovation is going to have to start picking and choosing his battles a little bit more cost effectively here, because one bad fight and it's all over for him. And it's going to be even more difficult to find these locations where there's not really a lot of army, just because of the fact that there are plenty of Colossus out on the map. There is Storm, which is a very good positional tool for Innovation right now, but he does find a pretty good fight here to start things off. The Zealot Warpin not going to be enough, forcing the reinforcements to come on back to help push this away. But Innovation will be able to just kind of pull this around now, as he is very well off with this big drop going to be coming in here. Going to get a couple of those High Templar, and now, now it's just kind of this seesaw effect for Innovation. He can go into the 3rd base. He can go into the 4th if he so chooses. But right now, I feel like he's not keeping his attacks synced up in the best way. And I'm a little bit worried about that, because you can kind of see Hurricane, he's sending so much of his army to deal with these that he's really leaving himself exposed in other places. You know, could kind of take a look at the units lost here as well. Innovation being very cost efficient. As he comes back in here, the shield battery is going to keep that Colossus alive for just a little bit longer. Disruptor actually getting a better connection than he would have hoped for Innovation. And yeah, overall, I think Hurricane will have enough to defend this location with the Disruptor balls. But, you know, Innovation is still almost maxed out. He's adding on the Liberators here pretty soon, as he will have the... what do you call that? What do you call that thing? The Fusion Core up for the upgrades. And he will have +3 coming in a minute or two, maybe 3. I forget how long that upgrade takes because I just kind of forget about it. But the Vikings actually going to be able to land on top of the 4th base as well. Unfortunately, going to lose a couple of ghosts in that had quite a bit of EMP energy here. And even though these Vikings do get cleaned up, they do take a very good trade against the army in there. And now Innovation on the warpath, going to try and just absolutely steamroll his way forward, even though now he is going to be forced back with the additional warp-ins. Taking a look at the army supply here, it is dropping rapidly for Innovation. He's only got half of the army supply he used to, but that still is double what Hurricane has. And yeah, you're not breaking that location. You don't really have enough Stalkers to deal with that amount of Liberators, and even Storms don't really break through that armor very well. So nice and calm. Innovation just going to be keeping his presence out on the map. I think that's very important, because if Hurricane is kind of able to stop that presence out on the map, that's when things really start to get dicey, because you have no advance warning for when the army's moving his way in. Like right now, the army's actually a little bit out of position. So the Stalkers will be able to get a couple of good pickoffs in the acceleration zone before backing out of there. Good trade by Hurricane. Problem for him right now is he doesn't really have a ton of storm energy left. And even if he does, he's just going to whiff a couple of them right off the bat. And now the Stalkers trying to fight the Liberators, but they do have that range, which makes it so impossible to deal with this location. We also do see Innovation going for a big Doom drop in the main base for fully loaded medevacs. Let's hope that doesn't come to bite him in the butt with the main fight out here in the front. But as Hurricane's supply is starting to dwindle, you can see he's kind of desperately trying to warp in whatever he can. Those Stalkers are going to get chewed up, and GG is called. Just once again, fantastic play there from Innovation. He's kind of zeroing in on Hurricane's weaknesses and really just doing a good job of exploiting them. I think Hurricane, he's going to have to change things up a little bit. He's been very passive in the games here. We did see small run-bys here and there, but at this point, small run-bys aren't going to do anything for you. You have to make those big plays. Maybe go for some cheddar. Maybe start to kind of work in some... I don't know what the term is, but like, you know, maybe some all-ins, maybe some much more committed strategies. I think that's all you can really do here, but let's see if he can implement them, because spawning down here in the bottom position, give it up for our blue Protoss, Hurricane. And his opponent up here in the top position. He is red and he is like a bull charging forward. Give it up for Innovation. And I'd like to remind everyone, make sure you guys check out the Matcherino page for this event. Any little bit helps the prize pool, and with XCOM 288, you do add that 50 cents to the prize pool for absolutely free. Free and money, in that order, is one of my favorite sentences in the world. And I hope it is for you guys as well, because here we go. Once again, it's going to be that Marine. Very good. I'm interested to see if Hurricane is going to change it up in this one. We'll have to wait for that Cyber Core to finish before we can know for certain. But so far, everything is pretty normal for both sides. Alright, Innovation hiding a sneaky little boy over here. Never mind, he's just gonna go on home. Actually, no, that looks like he may have just had a little mistake there, but he's actually gonna go for the starport. Okay, proxy starport. So off the back of this, there's a couple of different things that he can make out of it. He can either go for the obvious, a Liberator, or he can do what a lot of Terran players have been doing recently, going for that Hellion drop. Now, in terms of positioning, I kind of prefer that this be in a position where you can go straight into the main base undetected. And the reason I say this is because if you're in the main base, the army is going to probably be in a more forward position, so you are going to be able to get a little bit more damage done, because that army will be out of position in order to deal with it. But I think the magic number of kills, as long as you keep the Hellions alive, is about 7 to 8 probes. And you do need 3 Hellions to one-shot them, so keeping those alive is going to be very important, as the Oracle going to be moving across the map for a little bit of a cheeky poke here. Oh, here we go. The Hellions do make their way in. 3 workers already going down. The Stalkers not going to help out. There are no shield batteries either. Innovation not really paying attention, because he is losing some of his SCVs back in home, so he will lose quite a few of those Hellions. And unfortunately, there just aren't really enough Marines at home either, so even though he's done massive amounts of work, he's taken just as much as he's lost. Look at that, even losing the Marines because he did not have enough of them. That is horrendously bad for him. But hey, that's pretty nice, delaying the Nexus for just a little while longer. Looks like Hurricane maybe smelling a little bit of blood in the water here. Gonna try and dive in with quite a bit, but now with the siege tank, I think this is gonna be a really hard sell to make it work. Looks like the starport is just making it back as well, so there's not gonna be any medevac support with this army. But yeah, I think from here things are going to quiet down as both players starting to get up to that third base. Neither side really has enough to kill the other, so there's no real point in throwing away units needlessly. Five kills, really nice. Even keeping the oracles alive on that low health is going to help out quite a bit. Alright, Storm, Warp Prism, a ton of additional gates here, so Hurricane is keeping up in terms of that production, which is great for him because innovation, I think the big thing that's kind of just been propelling innovation forward in these games is the fact that his macro has been impeccable. You know, he's very methodically sound when it comes down to it. And there we go. The first big Warpism drop going to be coming across the map for Zealots is the prize. He might just warp it a ton of them and try and kill because now Innovation is going to be very far away from his base. So it's going to come down to the reinforcements in order to deal with this. And already they're starting to get a little bit overwhelmed. Looks like the main attack, however, has not been moving forward. Just trying to find a position close to that third base. The Cyclone gets taken down very, very quickly. And with the Widow Mines going down as well, the Storm's going to be blanketing everything. The Siege Tank, though, going to be just whittling the Storm. And now Hurricane has to be a little bit more careful about the defense, but he's got to be feeling pretty happy about this. 15, 16 workers killed. Just an entire mineral line gone. And so Innovation is in a lot of trouble trying to head straight for the main base, find that damage, but it's not enough. He's going to have to get out of there and reinforce. Oh, losing that Oracle. Really nice. Well, not for Hurricane, obviously. So Hurricane did divide his army up quite heavily right now. He doesn't really have enough for the Storm, just waiting, buying time for the rest of his army to arrive, but Innovation has set up in a very powerful siege location. The Widow Mines in the back as well, going to be helping out, making sure that Innovation has a place to retreat to. One big Storm going to blanket everything, and that's going to be the end of this push, but he did quite a bit to really trade efficiently there, and that's his big, kind of his big goal. As time goes on, Hurricane is not going to be able to reinforce his army as quickly as Innovation is. So if you can get those good trades, then you're going to be able to keep that forward momentum and just absolutely decimate your opponent. Looks like those Widow Mines are just kind of hanging out as well. There's no observers on the field. Does he actually... Yeah, he does have that robo facility, but just relying on the oracles to clean that up. Here we go. Hurricane actually about to get sandwiched right now as his storms are going to be making it on back. He's not going to utilize them just yet, but first one, whiffing a good chunk of this army. The innovation just setting up to try and do the double prong here. I'm wondering what he has on the other side as he's focusing most of his attention back at home to defend that drop. Oh, it looks like it was caught by the Oracle stasis trap, but now that it's unfrozen, there's not really that much storm energy left. And even though Innovation is taking quite a bit of damage at home, he still is going to just keep this attack going. Not necessarily a base trade, but it's a little bit of a base trade. Innovation is still in a lot of trouble now since he did decide to back off because he did lose so many workers. Currently down to 40. Take a look at that. Units lost. Not trading as efficiently anymore. Bigger drop gonna be coming in. The storm's not gonna be happening. Clear skies for air medevac. If you can actually get this Colossus before it comes out, that's going to be a really nice pickoff as well, because that's pretty much all the AoE that in a Hurricane has to offer. We do see that Doom Drop going to be coming towards the main base as well. And now Hurricane really struggling to deal with this. Even an attack on the third on the way. Oh my goodness, this is just absolute carnage. And this is where Innovation is going to thrive. There's just not enough Protoss to defend all three locations. He's got to be careful not to jump into that stasis trap, but he will lose a couple of units to that. And yeah, I think this is just way too much. We should be seeing Hurricane get the tap out here in just a second. Yeah, there you go. Colossus has fallen. There's nothing in the main base. Third base has fallen. GG. Innovation. Just dominating in this game. Or the series, rather. So now we move on to Lightshade. Another map with a lot of twists and turns, a lot of places that you can kind of hide some delectable strategies. And I think we are going to have to introduce these guys for you right now. Spawning in the top position. He may be down, but he is certainly not out. He needs your energy. Send it his way to www.hurricane.com. And this guy down here, he is steamrolling forward. You would think that he is selling construction equipment because of that. But no, it is just the mechanical Terran himself. Give it up for innovation.exe. So already we've kind of seen how this, how his game plan. Obviously he is changing it up just a little bit in the fact that he did switch away from the 3 racks after the first couple of games. Just to kind of go for a more standard build order here. And you know what? I think smaller time events like this are a good place for these guys to just practice their mechanics over and over again, because we do see a lot of similar builds when we see these kind of series, rather than the kind of over-the-wall stuff you would see in a premier tournament, and especially with IEM Katowice coming up, it becomes even more important to kind of, you know, keep some of your safer builds closer to your chest, just because it's a little bit more money on the line. I think it's like $175,000 or something. So yeah, a little bit more than the chump change that they're getting here, but they still put on a really good show. Looks like Innovation is as well just going to be doing something very similar to last game. Now, the big difference is that Hurricane is going for Twilight Council this time. And while Hellions can semi-defend versus Adepts, okay, you know what? The way I see it with this one is the Hellions is a very kind of committed opening here because you do lose a lot of that firepower. So if this was Stargate once again, that would be where he's in the biggest of trouble. But the fact that it's just Adepts does mean that there is a little bit of wiggle room here for Innovation. That wiggle room, though, is going to start to go away as we do have the Dark Shrine coming on out. So Hurricane just saying, you know what, I've had enough of the late game. Let's try and win it in the early game. Hurricane doesn't really have anything back at home either. He's got those two Adepts, but they're not really super fast to deal with the Hellions. And as you can see, once they get into big enough numbers, they start to go down. Already 5, 6, maybe even 8 are going to fall. A couple of additional ones will go on down, and the biggest thing that he's seeing right now is that Dark Shrine. That's the most important thing about this entire thing. Now that he's seeing that, we instantly see that Inji Bay go down. That's about halfway complete. We see the War Prism actually just going to be very ballsy with where it's coming into. But you know what? I think Innovation is pretty darn safe at this point. He's just got to have his units in position. Innovation, you're a little bit out of position. So he will lose a couple of workers for free. Not going to lose the missile turret, though, and that is the linchpin of this defense. Hurricane not going to get too much more done with just the pure DTs. So might just start going into Archon drops. I think that's really all you can do with this. Oh, that is painful. I think that's the most painful thing about all this, is losing that War Prism and the DTs does give Innovation a lot of room to kind of just go for a little bit of a poke. Even though Hurricane does have those Stalkers back at home, they don't have Blink, so they're not going to be as useful in this fight. And the Cyclone is going to be able to kind of just micro around that. We do have that Siege Tank as well, so... Oh, man, Hurricane is in a lot of trouble right now. Look at that, even going to lose the Sentry before the fight even begins. Having to force to warp in a couple of defensive DTs, but I think there are still a couple of scans available. And yes, there is one. Siege Tank might just barely survive. It will go down to the Stalkers, but that's all Hurricane has. GG. I gotta say, Innovation is just looking very solid in these ones. I don't know if it's Hurricane having a bad day or if it's just Innovation getting back on form. But, yeah, great start. Now, I'd like to remind everyone that we are going through all 11 games, however, so it doesn't really matter if Innovation wins the next one because, you know what, we just love StarCraft way too much to stop it at a true best of 11. We gotta get everybody involved. Let me just update the scores. You know, the one funny thing is, like, this overlay only goes up to best of 9 too, so you gotta add in that little text window just so that everybody knows that we are gonna have more. But let's introduce these guys. Spawning up here in the top position. Give it up for our blue Protoss, Hurricane. And his opponent down here in the bottom. He's red like a raging bull. He's Innovation. So now Hurricane obviously going to go for the atypical scout. Oxide is one of those maps that has quite a few locations that are just really difficult to deal with as the Protoss player in terms of getting sieged up, in terms of kind of just being safe, as we do have near that third base that's just that rock formation, which is really good for siege tank fire because it's right in range of the Nexus. And I apologize, guys. I will be right back. I'll keep it on Inu's channel or Inu's window here. I'll be right back. I'm sorry, guys. Apologize for that, guys. Very important call, but it looks like I came back in the right time because Innovation is going to be moving across the map with a pretty nonchalant amount of Marines. I'm going to be trying to get a little bit of damage done. But it's going to be a little bit difficult to here, as we can kind of see Hurricane does have a good amount of Zealots to kind of tank the front. And obviously that Immortal in the backfield just going to be wailing away. So it looks like Hurricane did go for Phoenix in the end. And is going up to Colossus as well. So overall, he's feeling pretty confident, pretty safe versus Innovation right now. Take a look at the units lost. Only one SCV and a Reaper going to go down. Ooh, nice pick off there by Innovation. He's gotta have to be careful with how much he stims, because those medevacs are gonna have to reinforce this army. And the Phoenix are gonna make that a very vulnerable position for him. But overall, I do think Innovation, he's kind of put a little bit of a fear in the Hurricane. He can't really drop as efficiently as he's done in previous games. Just because that Phoenix count is getting really scary. He's got about 4 to 5. So I think from here, Innovation kind of just powers up a little bit more. As we can see, he's getting his third base up and rolling. His upgrades still rolling on in as well. And off the back of all of that, he's also just adding on that additional couple of racks. Preferably for Marauders, because I think once you hit about 3 Colossus, you only really need Marauders. You don't really need that many Marines. Innovation finding a little bit of an angle to move in, but not really going to be doing too much here, as Hurricane just trying to buy himself a little bit more time. A couple of additional warp-ins. You can see he's kind of set up in a good location to make sure that he doesn't take too much damage. Yeah, that position is really just difficult to kind of siege into. You know what? He's gonna try. Gotta be careful not to get sandwiched there by all of those Colossi. So, being very cautious right now. You can't really afford to lose this army. As he's rotating around, kind of just making a Hurricane assume that he's going for the main base. There's just way too much there, but it looks like he's going to try it anyway. Innovation with a very ballsy move, getting right on top of the Colossus, who will get focus fire down, but the shield battery is in the perfect location to make sure that it will not fall. So unfortunately, not going to get too much done with that. He does get 1 Colossus for his trouble, but I don't know. If you keep doing risky plays like that and not really getting what you need, then you're just going to lose straight up to this death ball that Hurricane is building up slowly. But hold that thought, as Innovation once again finds an angle where the army is not. The force fields doing a little bit to hinder the movement. But Innovation will just trade out against these Zealots. Maybe want to get a Stalker or two. If he can get the Colossus, that'd be great as well. But he will get on out of there. Get some efficient trades, though, if we take a look at the units lost. About 1,000 difference on the dot. It's going to be even more important to get those gas units, as the Zealot's not really that big of a deal anymore. Ooh. He sees the Colossus. Not able to get it, though, as he just jumps behind the army straight into the natural. Oh, he's going to get so many workers with this. And looks like the force field actually missed a little bit. So isn't able to kill off as much as he would like. But now there's just this threat of the seesaw coming in. Once he hits the left, he goes into the right. It's seriously so difficult for for Hurricane to deal with that he's going to have to divide his army perfectly, and even then, it might not be enough. Okay, a little bit of a lull in the action, but Innovation is never too far away from his next big move. He's really setting the pace of this, and Hurricane, that's kind of the whole thing about this series. He's just having so much trouble keeping up with the production. It's not necessarily that Innovation is microing better. It's just the fact that he's outproducing Hurricane by almost 3 to 1, I would have to say. Even take a look at that production tab, you can see that's the case. So now Innovation has his army together. He's going to get a scan in revealing the disruptors, meaning that he's going to have to be a little bit more careful where he decides to engage into, obviously avoiding the choke points. But yeah. We do see, looks like Hurricane's trying to force the engagement. Moving out for the first time in a while. As he kills off those Widow Mines. That's gotta feel bad. Widow Mines are usually like a set and forget kind of unit, but it really sucks when you lose them before the fight begins. Again with the drops. Like, now Hurricane actually does have a full-on army. He's currently 118 to 122. So he should have enough to kind of hold on in multiple locations. The problem for him, the problem for Innovation as well, is just the fact that these observers are blanketed over the map. So all his army movements are known about 10 steps in advance. Nice pick off to start things. That Disruptor going to be keeping the main army back. As we do see that Dark Shrine going to be not quintessential to the defense, but it's just going to be another big nuisance that Innovation is going to have to deal with. And look at that. First Disruptor shot, not going to get too much. Second Disruptor shot, whiffs it as well. You still have 2 more though, so Innovation has to be very careful. Looks like he's just going to go for a pretty big sandwich. Yeah, I think that last Disruptor did get a huge connection there. As well as that one getting some pretty decent work. But he actually gets to cut off this army and destroy almost everything here as Hurricane really trying to get the rest of it back. Oh no, this has just gone from bad to worse for him. As now his army is down over 60 supply. Hurricane kind of feeling the sting right now. He feels like he's got to do some counter damage, which, I mean, he does. But it's going to be very difficult to do so as he's trying to fight into these very heavy choke points, which just have so much Liberator fire that it's going to be really hard to set up in a good position. Recall going to be coming down to deal with the drop in the main base, but the rest of it will have to walk on home. He will be able to push that away, but doesn't really get any kills. And that's the important thing right now, is getting the kills. Because as innovation is completely maxed out... Oh, man, he's going to lose this base. Like, no two shakes about it. And you know what? He feels the sting too much. GG. Technically, innovation wins the series. But we are not going to stop there. We've got 5 more games on the way for you guys. Just because you are such amazing fans. So I hope everyone is having a good time. Make sure you check out that Matcherino page, XCOM288. It helps the players out a lot, and they really do appreciate it because they keep coming back for more. And speaking of coming back for more, this guy, he is a glutton for punishment, but he is wanting to dish it back. Give it up for Hurricane. And his opponent, up here in the top, he wants to close out this one with a clean 11-0 sweep. Let's see if he can do it. He is Innovation. Obviously, Submarine is the shortest map in the pool. There's a lot of different places that you can kind of hide proxies as well. And a lot of people say that it's Terran favored. Obviously, a submarine is a Terran structure made in the water, which I never really understood. I don't know, because if you guys remember Abyssal Reef way back in the day, and it's kind of sad to say that that was way back in the day, but Abyssal Reef was underwater and it did have some good effects. And Submarine kind of has that seabed floor look to it, but I don't know if it's underwater because we don't see units float up to the surface as we used to. I don't know if that's just map makers being more lazy or it's a dry dock. But I digress, as we do have Hurricane gonna get a little bit of a scout. Does see that he went straight for the reactor. So not even going to get that first Marine. But he does get to trap the probe, which is pretty big. Because that will allow him to get that first blood. Look at that, even killing it off before those Marines come on in. And now it is going to be Stargate once again. And yeah, looks like another 3-Rex is on the way. Dep's gonna come in, tries to get that first kill, but there are enough Marines. Unfortunately for Innovation, though, it looks like he was on move command right there, so he will let that live after killing off one of his soldiers. Double Reaper, this has been interesting. I do know that Reapers are pretty good in some instances. I just don't know if they are good in this one. But it does look like Hurricane has not walled off that high ground, so that's going to be pretty nice. And even going to get a kill on that Nexus before it's even building. We'll get a good scout of the Oracle as well, expending quite a bit of that energy. So, you know, maybe this is a little bit better than I would have expected. Because now that Oracle is not going to be able to get too much work done on the other side of the map. And as well, we've got so many Marines back at home that it's just going to be a flying paperweight, I feel. Okay, maybe 2 workers, 1 worker? Yeah, just 1 worker will go down. Second one going to be coming in from the other Oracle. A couple of additional ones, that's a little bit better. Obviously, the magic number with getting out of there is 5. And he does get that. So innovation a little bit out of position for that. Looks like he is going to start to move across the map, just maybe hitting a, trying to hit a timing with stim and combat shields. That's really all you can do with the 3 racks here because you don't have any medevacs. You don't really have any follow-up to this. So if it doesn't work, you put yourself pretty far behind in terms of that tech. And as we all know, Hurricane is on 3 bases. So it doesn't come down to just you need, 5 or 8 probe kills. You need to do more than that. Here we go. He's moving slowly across as we do have... Okay, those are just oracles. I thought he was about to proxy something there. But now you do have to be a little bit careful as there is some force field energy. But baiting the stasis trap in the front is going to be pretty good. The force fields, though, do catch quite a bit of this. Unfortunately, they're not enough to close it out. So going to get right on top of that shield battery. Focus fires down the sentries. And now, if he can get the Immortal, that'd be pretty nice as well. But he's going to throw away every single unit to make that happen. And okay, he did trade very nicely versus the army, but he didn't get anything else done. And so now, he's on 2 bases. He's only just now starting his 3rd. The medevac's not out just yet. And his army is looking pretty pitiful. You know, he's got 9 Marines, 6 Marauders. Now, I'm not saying Hurricane is in the best position, because he does throw down that gateway explosion just to survive. But still, you know, Innovation's not going to be able to push out fully just yet. I say as he looks like he's about to push out. Yeah, kind of just positioning right now. I guess he was waiting for another set of potentially Widow Mines right there, as the Oracle giving a little bit of an early warning system. And one thing I'd love to say about this series for Hurricane is he's been very good about just kind of keeping his vision up. You see these observers everywhere. You've got the Phoenix, the fake Phoenix rather, flying around. So he knows everything that's going on. Nothing has been a surprise to him. He just hasn't been able to keep up. As he even sees the stasis trap right there. Scan gonna go down, killing off the second one. He's got to be careful not to get surrounded, but the force field's gonna catch what it can. Colossus wailing away on the front wall here as the Marauders being inched forward. And Innovation won't be able to break this position, but he can kind of keep up this pressure. Maybe even get the Oracle if those rocks and that terrain wasn't there. Once again, we've got that seesaw motion as he's going to be lifting up and dropping straight into the natural. I think there are some stalkers there. Yeah, it looks like he's got a clump of army just hanging out ready for it. So maybe just go straight to the main base? Okay, being very cautious right now. I respect that. He doesn't want to lose these forces for free, essentially. Small run by of a couple of DTs. There is a missile turret there, so that is going to be cleaned up pretty quickly. Only 4 workers going down. And what I really like is that Innovation is not really resting on his laurels right now. He's got those Vikings on the way. The Ghost being added in as well, just for a little bit of extra security. Even though we don't have that Templar Archives out just yet. Even going to get a snipe on the Oracles. That is beautiful. That is about half beautiful. As he doesn't finish off that second one. Another big pickup. I think this one actually went unscouted, but the Stalkers are in position. They should be able to clean this up. That's a lot of Widow Mines right there. As Hurricane finds the main army and begins the real engagement. He's able to push it back, but now he's fighting in a choke point where EMPs and those Vikings are going to wail away on the Colossus in the back. And Innovation's army does survive, while Hurricane is still trying to keep that pressure up. But I just don't know if he has the army to do it. A beautiful concave for Innovation. Now the reinforcements are going to be enough to help out, but the Disruptors going to get cleaned up, and now it's just pure Stalkers as the Colossus not able to engage anymore. Yeah, this is pretty bad, as Innovation could even just parade push across the map at this point. Doesn't want to overextend, however, as another fresh warping of Zealots may stabilize the situation. It's just Hurricane can't really chase this too far because of the high ground. Looks like he got a little bit of a ghost foot. Small D2 drop as well, gonna reveal what's going on here. Killing off the Disruptor as it morphs is pretty huge, is pretty nice. As well as he's forcing a lot of the army to remain at home while the rest of it is at the 4th base. So it's actually going to be completely out of position as Innovation going for what could be a killing blow. We do see those DTs starting to make their way through this mineral line. So it makes a much more dicey situation. The Disruptors whiffing their shots, but there is absolutely almost nothing left other than those Disruptors, which do get a good shot, but that's going to be the last shot. Innovation with the 7-0 clean sweep so far. I just don't know what Hurricane can do. He's getting outplayed. Normally I would say that innovation is a little bit weaker in the PvT matchup, but right now he's just on complete form. And it's a form that I really hope to see as I Am Katowice starts up, because he's going to need that form versus what's going on in that one. I mean, you've got so many good players in his group. Even though, I gotta say, there's no group of death this time, which, more power to him. But you know what? We've got more power to this guy as well, spawning in the bottom position. Give it up for our blue Protoss hero. He is Hurricane. And his opponent, down here in the top of Jagannatha, is Innovation. So basically, yes, the map pool has reset as we continue on. We've still got about 4 games left, I believe, if my math is correct. 7 plus 4 does equal 11. I did go to public school, so I'm not 100% certain on that. But you know what? I think Innovation, Jagannatha was the map where he really just started to kind of explode in this series. We did see him switch it up, go for that factory rather than the 3 racks, and that allowed him to kind of just put on this consistent pressure that really wore our Protoss friend down here down. It looks like this is actually going to be the 3 racks as well again, though. As we see once again, this is interesting to me. That double Reaper, I think that's there to just expend gas and kind of give you a little bit of map presence. It throws your opponent off a little bit here. Innovation, he's one of those very innovative players. So, actually going to go up to a 3rd and 4th. What is going on here? Innovation kind of going a little bit yunny. Right now, they are just going to do some slight battling with that Adept. Yeah, this is kind of like 3 Rex Reaper, except not as committed, because he's throwing down the Tech Lab and just going straight back into Marines. But he's gonna have 5. He's gonna have 4 Reapers. Nice. That's actually gonna be able to do quite a bit of work on the other side of the map. On the back side of things, however, we do have Blink gonna be on the way. More than likely, it's going to be for defensive purposes. But still, getting that first big pick off here. Now the probe line is completely forfeit. The shield battery going to be the only thing saving that. But there are no shield batteries in the natural. The sentry going to start to get whittled down as the first Reaper does fall. Oh my goodness. I feel like Innovation could have gotten a little bit more damage with this, but again, just being a little bit conservative with his units, making sure that he doesn't lose them to anything too crazy. While he kind of just powers up back at home, we should be seeing that once those Marauders join the fray, that's his cue to move out. Third base is about halfway complete. Still no third base from Innovation. He is delaying that heavily for the sake of his build. And we should be... Yeah, there we go. The move out is going to be happening. Did Innovation... He's seen everything. Okay, so he did see Blink. You should kind of know that this is a pretty bog standard army since he didn't see anything come across the map for him. But here we go. There are a lot of wide open positions for Innovation to fight. So if he can kind of mitigate any damage for the force field, that's going to be fantastic. The Stalkers trying to fight this themselves, but they will be forced back. And now the first big stim. Going to get right on top of this army. The Sentry's going down, the Immortal being focus-fired, living up to its name, however, as it does save the rest of its units. And now Innovation will go on the retreat, but not before reinforcing and trying again. Looks like he killed off that Observer as well, just to keep himself a little bit more secretive. But yeah, Innovation on the warpath right now. He's just getting right on top of the Stalker fire. The probes having to be pulled to help defend. He will lose quite a few of them, I feel. And actually, no. Innovation not focus firing those down. Trying to focus down the Stalkers will mean that... he keeps most of the probes alive, and Innovation just trading out a little bit inefficiently right there. But you know what? Nothing like an inefficient fight to want to keep that momentum going, as Hurricane really hasn't been powering up behind this. He doesn't have... Does he? Okay, he did get charge, so that's okay. But at the same time, we don't see any additional tech going down. Only that +1 attack. That's all he's got. Looks like the Zealot's going to take the brunt of the Widowmine fire, but... He did catch enough of the bio to force him back as the Zealot run by. Going to get 6 additional kills, and the main base is completely under threat, so Hurricane finally fighting back. Looks like he's going to get even more here as the reinforcement's going to be slow to clean it up. And just all over the place with this. I think this is how Hurricane comes back in this series. He's got to get more moves like this. Even using the Widowmine against Innovation. Going to weaken up quite a bit of those SCVs. Those will have to be healed by the Medivacs, thus wasting a lot of their precious energy. But now it comes down to the follow-up here, as we do have that hit squad gonna get cleaned up on this side of the map, forced on back. While back at home, we do have the Templar Archives, DT Shrine, and an additional Forge for faster upgrades. But you know what? Innovation is not gonna let any of that finish. As this is just a really overwhelming army. Force fields are going to keep out quite a bit of it, but the Widowmines just barely don't get burrowed. He is still losing SCVs back at home, and he's not really taking the most efficient fight in the front because his attention is so split. But really, Hurricane is down over double the army supply. And the Widowmines getting a really good connection on top of those Immortals as well, cleaning up their shields. I think Innovation is slowly but surely going to break through this location. You can see the Zealots just being desperately warped in, but they fall almost as fast as they're warped in. And even with innovation being slowly pushed back, that's just not enough, as it's just now Stalkers versus Marauders. And if you're going to Vegas, those are the odds I would bet on every time. Not even caring that there's a DT in the mix either. He's just saying, to heck with it, I'm going to kill your entire army and be done with you. Scan going to go down finally to kill those off, and that is going to be it for Hurricane. GG is called. Innovation once again, just showing his prowess. Welcome back, Innovation. We have missed you. All right, Death Aura, back to our old stomping grounds. And a lovely morning for StarCraft 2. You know, the one thing you always want to see is players battling it out this, early in the morning. I am sure you guys are excited to see how this continues on. Let's find out, shall we? Spawning. In the top position. He needs about as much energy as you can send him. Give it up for Hurricane. And his opponent down here on an absolute tear of a series. He is Innovation. So far, so good. Okay, so let's talk about Hurricane for a couple minutes here while this game kind of gets underway. His big problem has been the fact that his macro has been tremendously slowed overall. And I think you can all agree, it's not that he's a bad player, it's just that he's falling behind in all these key ways. He's trying to get these efficient trades, which he's not really able to do. And then when he starts to fall behind, he's relying on not necessarily gimmicks, but much more risky strategies. For example, he's going for disruptors, which can get picked off pretty easily, as we've seen Innovation do. We've seen him toss in the DTs, which, while they do get some work done, they really don't have a lot of utility in these big, huge endgame fights. So those are the kind of two things I would like to see a little bit less of. I would like to see him kind of just focus on the more useful units, and just try and make a little bit more of them quicker. Yeah, that's really what he's got to do. Now, once again, it is going to be Twilight Council. Whether it's for Blink or maybe a faster charge, that'd be kind of nice. Just kind of going for anything at this point. You see those adepts just trying to be sneaky. Not really gonna get in there. He knows that they're out hanging about. But keep in mind, we do have 2 additional gateways gonna be tossed in. Did he make... Okay, so it's just gonna be 3, which does mean that this is more than likely a defensive blink. The Adepts as well going to be getting in here. They get a scout, but they won't get out with their lives. I think they got maybe 2 workers. Yeah, 2 workers. But now comes that kind of build-up out of innovation that's really been pushing him forward. Um, and off the back of this, Hurricane is... Didn't he... Is that the first robo facility? Yes, I must be losing my mind because I could have sworn that he already had one up and rolling with observers. But yeah, he's transitioning out of this. He's just keeping the Stalkers back to deal with any sort of drop play. Innovation hasn't really been doing that until, say, the mid game. Oh, actually, it is Wood of Mine drops. There we go. Oh, no. 10 workers going down. And that is a really, really bad for a Hurricane, although looks like he will be able to kill off the Wood of Mine, who is just loitering in the backfield. Even gonna add in the Raven this time. I'm kind of interested about that. Ravens can be good when they are used versus Colossus, and as you can see, he's gonna kind of be using this for some harassment as well. But you gotta be careful with it because that is a pretty heavy gas expenditure that you're not gonna have for the defense. And guess what? We don't even have stim. Like, we don't have stim, we don't have combat shields. That is very late for innovation. And while we do have 1 siege tank, I do believe... 2 siege tanks. Actually, it looks like Hurricane still will be able to find a small location where he can find some damage done. Hurricane definitely... a little bit slow to react to the Raven. Is going to lose 2 of them. I think that might be the end of this game almost. I don't want to call him out too early, but if innovation pushes, really what does Hurricane have other than the Stalkers? His Colossus are only just now started. He doesn't have any upgrades, and innovation will have 1-1 for a very powerful timing. So all Hurricane can really do is try and keep the army back here at the 3rd base with a couple of pickoffs. Even then, that's not going to work as innovation smells the blood in the water. This is a lot of Hurricane's army value right now. Stim just about to complete, about 7 seconds left, +1 as well. And that's when these Stalkers are pretty dead if they don't get out of there. So now it's pretty much just trying to buy time. Killing off the Marines isn't as important. You really want to get on top of those juicy Marauders because those are the big heavy hitters in this army. Hurricane down 20 army supply as the siege tanks gonna find a location, but that is a relatively large choke point. Although unfortunately for Hurricane, that does mean he cedes the high ground. 1 big cancel on that Colossus as well, gonna make it so much more difficult to defend. I don't think Innovation is really taking the most efficient fight that he can be here, however, and he's going to start to get pushed back. Never mind, he just has a little bit too much, and the siege tank, it will not go down, giving him a nice position to reposition to, and that is going to be it for this one. Innovation, 2 games away from an 11-game perfect sweep. Oh my goodness. I'm just taking a look at something over here to my right while I get the next game. The next game, we're going on to Romanticide again. And as we saw, there are a lot of positions to position Medivacs. Spawning. Down here in the bottom position, he needs your hearts, he needs your loves, he needs a win here. Give it up for Hurricane. And his opponent up here in the top. Looking out for himself and Kaidzu. It's innovation. Alright, so I think Innovation has made his point here. I think he can allow Hurricane to maybe get one win here because they are paid by the map. So I don't know how that really works out if Hurricane doesn't win any maps. But we do see Innovation. He's not getting that first Reaper, just going to go back into his normal, get the Marine out, drop the Reactor, maybe get a Reaper later on. It's all up to kind of what he feels like, as the Marine is going to be able to kind of just force this away while he drops down the factory. So no 3 racks this time. Nice, simple Terran is all he wants. Question is, I see an SCV hanging out where it really shouldn't be. It's heading to a very quiet location, and based off the positioning of these buildings, it looks like it's going to be Hellbat drops once again versus Oracle. That is a little bit scary, because remember, you're expending so much to get the Hellions out that you won't really have a lot of Marines to deal with those Stargate units, which does mean that yeah, there is a good chance that Hurricane gets a lot of damage in. Adept as well, going to be getting in. He knows that the Stargate is, or Starport rather, more than likely is somewhere out on the map. So he knows that it's not really going to be a threat as long as he can keep these Hellions at home for just a shorter period of time with these Adept Shades. Depths are going to be able to shade in here as the Phoenix gonna be out, not out just yet, and they are also out of position because the Oracle is going to have to stay at home to defend. But 4 workers already going down, 7, 8, maybe a couple more as Hurricane almost stacking them up. But he does get out of there with a good majority of them. Now it just comes down to how much more can he do, as these Adepts going to be wailing away on the Marines on the other side. It looks like Innovation loses not that many of his Marines, actually. That's kind of interesting. But these Adepts still going to be able to get some work done. I think, take a look at the units lost tab here. He's already gotten 5. A 6th has gone down, and maybe 1 or 2 more. Now, based off what Innovation is making right now, I think one of the best ways to deal with a Phoenix opening is to go for these kind of siege tank pushes, because it's so difficult to have out enough units to defend and have the Phoenix as well. Even getting the Oracle is really nice because that slows down any sort of defense. It actually looks like Innovation is going to be going for it as the siege tanks popping out of the main base. The Phoenix will have to try and slow this down on their own. But again, he doesn't really have a lot, and I'm really scared for him right now. What's he even making on the other side of the map? He's got a Robo Bay on the way, but that means Colossus are about maybe 2 minutes away. And that is more than enough time for Innovation to set up in this fantastic position. Right on top of the third. It's pretty much just buy time. Sacrifice this location. You know your opponent doesn't have his third up just yet. But here we go. He's going to dive right on top. Maybe focus firing down the Phoenix would be the best idea. Okay. It looks like Innovation does get cleaned up. Getting about 3 workers. So pretty nice hold, I got to say, for Hurricane. It looked dicey for a little bit. But once the Phoenix came in, yeah, no. No. So Siege Tank's going to be wailing away on this army, but the reinforcements should barely be enough. Hurricane just going for broke here. He's going to sacrifice everything to make this work. SCV's already been pulled off the line. And you know, as you know, starts to kind of lose the plot. Actually, I think Hurricane has just enough to break this location, and he looks like he's finally going to be able to put himself on the board, which is great because the WCS game heart doesn't actually go past 9. Now there is, keep in mind, there is one siege tank at the top of the ramp, and there is a missile turret defending it. 22 workers have gone down. And with that, Innovation's that currently down to 32. He does have his third base up and mining, which is going to help a little bit because that does mean he has mules. But I don't know. I'm still very scared for him here. Yeah, those Phoenix, please pick up the mules. Don't just forget about them. Bunch of fresh mules means a bunch of fresh kills. So now, Hurricane just really finding all these great angles. He's kind of doing what Innovation did to him. Every single time, he's just got the drop set up. He's got the units on the right setup. And now this has bought him more than enough time to kind of get this gateway explosion and just power up for unabated for quite a bit of time. Take a look at the units lost once again. Very efficient. 33 workers going down to his own 11. And I gotta say, It's not looking too good for innovation this time. Thank you for the follow, Extrema Yeshi. Yeah, Innovation knows what's up, so he has just pulled the boys, going for one last big attack, and this is still pretty scary. That's 4 siege tanks that he will have to utilize in this fight. But the thing is, Hurricane doesn't even really need to fight down here if he doesn't want to. Like, he can just go straight up to the high ground and go from there, and that's exactly what he's going to do. He's just going to slowly inch his way back until the shield batteries are done. And now, here we go, he has pulled the trigger. The siege tanks all getting lifted, so they are not going to be useful in this fight, and Hurricane has finally put himself on the board. Fantastic game right there. That is really Hurricane's true form. And you know what? He may have lost the series, but he still has the chance to win the battle. As we're going into our last game of the day, I'd like to thank you all for tuning in so far. It has been an absolute blast bringing these games to you. And I'm very happy to introduce this guy in the top corner, spawning in as the blue Protoss. Give it up for Hurricane. And his opponent, down here in the bottom position, as the Red Terran. He's Innovation. And we'll see a little bit of a dip right here. I'm not expecting anything too crazy for this one. You know? Like, at this point, I think you just kind of want to get that moral victory and win it straight up so that you're able to kind of hold your head high and say, hey, at least I took 2 games. For what has been a long series indeed, currently going on 2 hours and 16 minutes, which is, you know, it's been great to share it with you guys. Looks like that probe scout just a little bit later, so it's not really going to get too much information, as Innovation has once again just kind of said, you know what, no Reaper. Gotta be careful not to lose that, though. I think the scariest probe is the one that you can't see. Like, if you go in and you... I remember, I think it was either Young or some player who, back when you couldn't actually see the number of SCVs, like, it used to just say nothing, just completely blank. He would say, he went into an interview and said, how did you know that that certain thing was coming? And he just said, oh, I just counted the number of probes. And that shows how insane some of these players can be with how they train. Just being able to take a quick glance and count all the workers like that. That was the good old days of Wings of Liberty. But I digress on that, because here in Legacy of the Void, the Hellions will be dropped once again into Hurricane's natural. There is no Stargate this time, so it's just gonna be Twilight Council Blink. There's nothing too fancy out of either side. We've seen this about 100 times before. Although I do like this, the fake Oracle going to be going in to kind of scare Innovation, but I think at this point he knows that's kind of fake. Because he's not really overreacting to anything. And, yeah, there you go. No overreactions. He's safe. But here it is. The Hellions do get a good lineup. If they can get that shot off, that is going to be fantastic amounts of damage. Already 10 workers going down, and he will actually get out of there with all of those Hellions even going to be coming in for another attack. Oh my goodness, this is absolute carnage for Hurricane, and even though he's going to lose these Hellions, I think he's going to be pretty happy with the amount of damage that he's done already. Yeah, 18 workers for 4 Hellions and a medevac. That is a trade I will take every day of the week. And you know what? Hurricane knows that that is not going to be enough for him to come back from.